Hello, this is Amin, and this is session 56 of ASP.NET Core MVC tutorial. In this session, we are going to implement changes in the web application that we have implemented until this session to enable us to delete the multi-records. When we select multi-records, we can delete them. And also, later in this session, we will talk about undelete action, and I describe what is undelete action behavior. For implementing these changes, at the moment, we are going to implement a list for the category entity, and we implement a view for a category index to display the list of category that we have. Later, we can add a checkbox before each category to be selected, and then at the bottom of the table, we can add a button to submit this form, to submit the selected item to the controller and later to the repository to enable us to delete the multiple records. For this purpose, also we need to do some changes inside the controller. We need to add index and delete action method inside category controller. Later, we should add a method inside the I category in repository, which is interface, and it receive I enumerable or list of integer, and then it's return the list of category that we delete or something else. We describe it in detail later. Also, we can implement this behavior inside the repository. We implement it just in SQL repository, and we receive the list of selected item. Then we send it to the context and the database with remove range method, and then we save the changes inside the context. Let's first go to the Visual Studio and implement these changes. Then I will talk about undelete action behavior. This is the project that I have been working so far throughout this tutorial. I'm going to category controller, and first I add a constructor. And inside this constructor, I will need I category repository. And here I add I category repository. I call it category repository. And I put one underline here. And with control period key, I add the read-only field. Then I will add another action method, which would be public, and its result is iAction result, and its name is index. It doesn't have any input element, and it return a view. Let's first implement the view. As we discussed about it earlier, I just copy and paste the required code inside the view. It would be a razor empty view, and its name is index. Here, the model would be a I enumerable category, and I copied the rest of required code. It is not something complicated, just I use viewback to mention the title of the page, and also I use a table, and the table has two columns, category name and description, and also here I use this for each and display all the categories. Also, before launching the project, I need to pass the list of category. I return to category controller, and here I use a variable and I call it cat list, and I'm using the category repository that I have injected and use get all categories. Then I pass it to the view and view will display the list. Let me save the changes and run the project to see the result. The project built successfully, and here is up and running. Let me go to category. And you can see I have the list of category here, a category name and description. Let's back to Visual Studio to add a checklist here and a button here to submit the list of categories that I want to submit for delete. I return to index. First, let me add a bootstrap class to make a space from the top and margin top 3. This is the bootstrap class, and if you are not familiar, you can go to getbootstrap.com and read more about the bootstrap classes. And here I add a th and I call it select. Also, I should wrap this table inside the form. And with ASP action, I use delete action, which I haven't added yet, but I will add this action method inside the category, and also its method would be post. Also, the closing form tag should be here. And also I need a table data here, which should have a checkbox. That's why I'm using input element. And the input element type would be checkbox. Just pay attention here. The name of this input element should be equal the input parameter of delete action method inside category. I call it selected cat delete, and its value should be equal the category ID. And with this line of code, when I select each category of each row, I can pass it to the controller. Just I copy this section and then I will use it inside the category controller. Also, I need a button here, which I call it delete selected rows. And its type is, of course, submit, to submit this form. And also I use bootstrap classes. Then I'm going to category controller. Here I will add another action method, which would be HTTP post. And it would be a public. And the result is iAction result. And I call it delete. And as I mentioned, it needs a input parameter, which would be a I enumerable of integer, y integer, because the type of ID inside the category is integer. Then I call it exactly the same name that I selected for the input element inside the view, selected cat delete, and here I use selected cat delete. Then I should pass this data to the repository to implement the changes, and also I return redirect to action, and again I want to call index action. Next I should go to category repository, and here I want to return I enumerable of category, and I call it delete, and also it get a list of integer, and it would be I enumerable of int, and I call it delete list. Then I should add it inside the static category repository and SQL category repository as well. Here I'm just add it, and I don't implement it inside the static category repository. Just I implement it inside SQL Server category repository. And here, first I should retrieve the selected list from the database. That's why I'm using a variable and cat list. And I can call it delete cat list would be equal. And again, I'm using the context, web app context dot categories dot where. The namespace for the link is not available, and I can add it, which is inside system.link. And now I can use where clause, and I use lambda expression. And just here, pay attention, I said delete list dot contains. It means find the categories which its ID is inside the delete list. And here I use lambda expression, and I said I'm using for ID. Then I convert it to list. Now I have the list of items that I want to delete. And next I'm going to delete those items. Next I use web app db context, and here I select category again and remove range. I have remove and remove range. Remove range for removing a range of data, and as you can see, it needs a array of category, and I have the array of category here. Next I need to save these changes and then return the list of deleted item. Let me save the changes and add some manual data inside the category to enable me to delete the multiple records. I will explain later why I'm not deleting current categories. Just I'm going to SQL Server Object Explorer, and inside SQL Server I'm going to the database that I designed for this web application, and inside the tables I have categories, and I'm going to view data, and here I add some more categories: A, B, C, and D. It would be enough. And then I need to call this method inside the iActionResult delete action method. And here I use category repository and delete, which needs a I enumerable integer. With these changes, I receive the list here and I pass it to the repository, and repository will find the records inside the database and then delete the records and save the changes, and I again return to index. Let me save the changes once more and run the project. Project is up and running. Let me refresh this page. And as you can see, I have the categories that I recently added. I select A and B and C and press delete rows. And you can see we successfully delete the multi-records with the changes that we have implemented inside the database. And also these two, I'm going to delete them. And you can see we successfully delete them. Let's check these three categories inside the cost list. And you can see I have the records which is under bill or a grocery. Let me delete the category which is related to grocery, but before that one, let me add the category inside the top menu. Let's me back to Visual Studio, and here inside the shared main layout, I can add the category inside the menu, and I call it category list. Let me save the changes and run the project once more. Project is up and running. Let me refresh this page. And you can see I have category lists here. I'm going to category list, and I'm going to delete grocery, which has one item inside cost list. Here, the amount is 150. And I'm going to grocery list and delete this item. What will happen for the record inside the cost list? And as you can see, I don't have cost list record here anymore. This is undelete behavior, and this is the cascade behavior. When we delete a record, which is a foreign key inside another record, we have some behavior. Cascade happen when we delete a parent record, same as the grocery inside the category. The respective record or records inside the child, which is caused, will be deleted automatically without any notice. Also, we have no action when we are going to delete a parent record. Now the child record will remain unchanged, but as our child here is a required record, we are not able to use no action and set null behavior. And as name implies, set null is change the property of the child to null. And also we have restricted. By default, the behavior is cascaded. And as you saw, when I delete the grocery category, the respective records inside the cost were deleted automatically. Let me show you how you can change this behavior and set it to restricted to avoid the deleting the required data inside the child entity. For implementing these changes, we should add this setting inside the context class. And I'm going to web app context class. And as you can see here, I'm using a model builder, which we call it seed. That's why I can implement these changes inside seed extension. And here, after the seeding data, I can add another feature, which I'm using again model builder and entity. I want to apply these changes inside the cost entity. I use has one. And here I use again lambda expression. And at as it is connected to category. Here I selected the category. Then as this relation is one to many, I'm using with many. And again, I'm using lambda expression. And I call it to costs property, which is inside the category model to connect these two entities to each other. And then I'm going to undelete behavior. And here I selected delete behavior. And the default value is cascade. And you can see I have another option, no action, client no action, cascade, client cascade, restricted, and the rest. And here I'm going to select it restricted because I don't want to delete the parent record with it has one or many child record. Let me save these changes and go to package manager and add one migration. I call it add on deletes behavior. And this is the changes that will be applied on the database. And I'm going to update database command to update the database. I'm going to save the changes and run the project. Project is up and running, and I'm going to category list. And this time I want to delete a record which has a child record here inside the cost entity. And I'm going to delete rent. You can see I'm not able to delete this record because I have a exception error, and it's mentioned an error occurring while saving the entity changes. See the inner exception, and the exception is related to foreign key cost category ID. And as you can see, I'm not able to delete this record, and a unaccepted error will happen. I will show you how you can solve this exception error in this session, and I will describe error handling in the upcoming session in the detail. Let me stop the project, and here I'm using try catch block, and I put this piece of code inside the try, and inside the catch I just return a null value. And with this block of code, when some error happen, it's return a null. And then I will explain more about the next step. Just we skip if any record won't be deleted, and again the list would be refreshed in this session. But later we will show you how you can display a proper message to the user. Let me save the changes and run the project again. Project is up and running again. And this time I'm going to cost list first. And first I delete this record which is under the category. But before this practice, I'm going to category list, and then I'm trying to delete these records. And as you can see, nothing happened. Just the list is refreshed again, and no record has been deleted. For deleting these categories, first I should remove the child record. For example, I can go to cost list, and here you can see I have just this one inside the rent. For making sure, I can go to category and search for rent, and you can see I have just this one. I'm going to delete this one. For time being, I don't have any record under rent category. That's why I can go to category list and delete this record, and you can see the record is successfully deleted. In this session, we implement multi-record deletion behavior, and also we discussed about on-delete action and on-delete behavior. Thank you for watching this session. Don't forget to like and share this video and put your comment under this video if you like it. And don't forget to subscribe our YouTube channel and follow us on our social media. We just can continue this type of tutorial if you support us with your comment, with your share and your subscription. Once more, thank you for being with us.